Welcome to the Big Play Cleveland Show. I'm Gabriella Cruz alongside Chris McNeil, and we've got Nick Padone. A big shout out to our producer, Ryan Smith, as always. Plenty to chat about on today's show. We've got Bieber is no longer a Guardian. The Guardians are making some moves here. Martin Emerson suffered an injury with the Browns. So we'll have plenty to go over here, gang. But how was your weekend?
Good weekend. Had a lot of family in town this weekend from Chicago. Shout out to all the Christons. So good time hanging out by the pool. It felt like kind of the last hurrah for the summer before we really get into football now, hardcore.
Right.
Yeah, I'm ready to talk some football, ready to talk some SLCC, and have a good show.
And you found a new taco spot near your house, which is...
Yeah, no free plugs. Not yet a sponsor, but I do have 2 taco spots by my house that I'm very fond of, which is good news for me.
Yeah. No, that's an incredible weekend if you can find a new clutch food spot.
Yeah.
Okay, we've got so much to talk about on our show, but right now we've got a special guest in studio, Drew Shirtliff.
Hi, how's it going?
How's it going? I love your suit. It's very bright.
Yeah, it's vibrant, that's for sure. It's a little beat up. It's seen better days.
Now, you have worn that down to the stadium a few times.
Oh,
right?
yeah, it's got some Cleveland pollution pretty permanently stained into it. It's a little tattered up. It's seen a lot of wins, a lot of losses, and a few wins.
You think that thing could make it till 2029 when they open Brook Park?
Oh, this is the 3rd edition, actually. You should see the first one. It's in a lot worse shape than this one, but we'll see. I'll get a dome one, and it won't be as beat up. Maybe see some more dubs.
Glowing. It's got its own glow.
Yeah, sorry to blind the viewers.
Yeah, no off button on that thing. All right, Drew is in studio. He's with the Settlers Landing Charity Concert, which is this Saturday. For people who don't know, tell us a little bit about the event.
Yeah, so it's this Saturday. It's August 9th. The performances start at 4 o'clock. The charity we're doing it for is Wags for Kids. They're a nonprofit. They're actually located in Berea, Ohio, not too far from the training camp facility. And what they do is provide service and support animals for children with autism, cerebral palsy, other disabilities. They use the Mansfield Correctional Facility actually to train their dogs too. So they're an awesome charity. They do a lot of great work, and that's where all the proceeds are going that day. It's we got cover bands, we got some pop artists, some hip hop, something for everybody, raffles, food trucks, all that kind of stuff. It's it's right down by kind of by Flatiron. If you guys know where that's at, by the RTA station, Settlers Landing Park.
How many years have you guys been doing this?
This is the 3rd one.
Very nice.
It's been pretty successful. We did 20,000 for them the first year, 26,000 last year. So we're just hoping to keep on reaching that mark and pushing it further. And yeah, it's been awesome. We've been really lucky with weather. It keeps looking better and better for this Saturday as well. So
Awesome.
Tell us a little bit about the band lineup.
the first one is called Sweet Chin Music. They're a cover band from around this area. They're pretty sweet, and I just saw them last month, actually. The other one, they're called Wild Fox Medicine. They're from Columbus.
Nice.
So some pretty cool names there. And then we got actually Jesse G is a pop artist. We got Hot and Heavy, who's a hip hop guy, and some other performers as well, you know, for the late night. But it's mostly family oriented during the day. Like I said, from 4 to like 8 is just the bands. Then we do the raffles, and then it kind of turns into a pop hip hop type of scene towards the nighttime.
Sweet. What can our fans do to get involved and get out there and, you know, check out some of these great bands for a really good cause?
Yeah, so if you can't make it that day, you can visit our website. It's slcc2025.com. If you can make it that day, please come on out. Like I said, it's Settlers Landing Park. It's over down by the Settlers Landing RTA station by Flatiron. You know where that is. It's like across the river from Jacobs Pavilion. But we take any form of donation on the website, whether it be, you know, PayPal, Venmo, any of that stuff. There's a GoFundMe going. But yeah, like I said, slcc2025.com. You'll see all kinds of more details and stuff about the actual event there and different ways you can donate.
Wearing the orange suit, got to give you 2 quick Browns questions.
Let's hear it.
Number 1, who's the starting quarterback week 1? Number 2, what is the Browns record going to be this season?
Week 1, Joe Flacco. Got to
Okay.
roll him out there. You just have to. He's what we saw from him last time was you have to. I think you have to. Browns record, man. I'm gonna get some laughs for this one, but I'm going 12-5.
Wow.
Yeah, I know.
12-5.
I know. But
The
listen,
dispensary's already open
the-
this
the
early.
the last time we saw Joe, he was slinging it. And I know. I mean, we got some wide receiver. We we got some trouble, but that's for sure. I actually had a question for you guys because I'm curious if that's okay. Now that Nick Chubb's out of town, who's your favorite Browns player? I feel like he was the default answer for the longest time.
For me, it'd be Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett?
I always love defensive ends.
Jerry
I love
Jeudy?
that.
Okay.
Yeah, I love Jerry Judy's personality, and I think we could see a big year from him. This dude is very athletic, and I think he's ready to break out even more for us.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll go with David Njoku. I feel like David Njoku's kind of made Cleveland his own, and he's kind of like we always talk about leadership with the Browns, and you really don't get it from guys like Myles and with Nick Chubb. He's a little bit of a quieter dude. Like I think David has done a really good job in recent years emerging as a leader for this organization.
Same question for you. Who's your favorite Cleveland Brown?
Well, on that note from Nick, the leadership, I think Joel Bitonio.
Okay,
he's
going
just
offensive line.
He's the tenured guy. Yeah, he just does his job, stays quiet, but I feel like he's a great leader too.
That's
he really
fantastic.
is the glue. That's a good point. We just rattled off a handful of great Browns, so maybe that 12-5
Yeah, there you go.
that
See,
crazy.
That's right.
We didn't even hesitate. That was easy.
Drew, thank you so much for coming in. Once again, everybody check out the Settlers Landing charity concert this Saturday. We got the website here on the screen. Thanks so much for your time. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Big Play Cleveland right after this.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Lake Spur Marketing, connecting your brand to the right customers. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today.
Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. It's time for our Cleveland headlines brought to you by Fairway Ford.
Fairway Ford offers complete customization for any vehicle on the lot with their Fairway Black Label line. The series features custom upgrades like premium wheel and tire packages, a wide variety of level or lift kits, performance enhancements, and fully customized interior options. And every Fairway Black Label truck comes with a Rhino spray and bed liner. Whether you're looking for an aggressive off-road stance, a bold street presence, or a one-of-a-kind build, Fairway Black Label delivers. As a bonus, many of these upgrades can be financed for as little as 0% APR, depending upon the vehicle line. You dream it, they can build it. Visit fairwayfordohio.com and explore their current Black Label inventory or give them a call to start designing yours today.
All right, gang, the Guardians roster looks a little different this week than it did when we were shooting last week. Clase placed on paid leave. Bieber is out. Steven is in. Paul Sewald traded for cash considerations. And, of course, we have CJ Kayfus promoted to Cleveland. First MLB. I loved his debut, guys. Got up there first at bat. Nice RBI for the kid. I liked how the Guardians said, we don't usually post ground outs, but at the ballpark, you could feel the excitement for the kid. It's always neat to see that in the ballpark. But, yeah, what are your thoughts on the Bieber trade?
Yeah, nice sacrifice right off the board for CJ Kayfus. And, of course, a sacrifice there for Emmanuel Clase going away here and being sacrificed to the gambling lords. And what we really lost there was at the trade deadline, and we'll talk to Jensen about this, is you lost a key piece there. A chance for us to really trade somebody out of the bullpen, a top-end closer, and really get something back for it, I think. But, now he's gone, and that's off the table. So we'll see what ends up happening going forward, but I think he's probably done for the Guardians and maybe with baseball.
And I understood the Shane Bieber trade. I really did. He hasn't pitched in what feels like such a long time, and you were able to get back a really nice prospect for him. It stings, though, because he was able to make the transition off of Corey Kluber so seamless. Like, to go from one Cy Young winner to hand the baton to Shane Bieber, and he just ran with it and gave us some tremendous memories. I will say, if the Guardians can't get their act in order as it relates to the playoff picture, I'll be pulling for the Toronto Blue Jays, because boy, do they have all of our old friends between Shane Bieber and Andres Jimenez. They're one of the best teams in baseball, and I would love nothing more than to see Shane pitch some meaningful playoff innings in an American League Championship Series for the Blue Jays. I'll be all aboard the Blue Jay train if Shane Bieber's pitching well and if they're in the playoffs and we're not.
Mark Shapiro up there.
I think everybody until the 6 o'clock mark on trade deadline day was holding their breath to see what would come of Stephen Kwan. And the fact that he didn't get traded, does this give you some confidence that an extension is coming his way?
No, not for the extension, although it does make me feel good in the short term here. It's a team that at least you have Jose, you've got Kwan, you've got some of the young guys. We're calling up Kayfus. So there's some potential for some hope for this team for the rest of the season. So that's what everybody was going for. I'll tell you what, on social media, it was a big deal when Stephen Kwan, and it hit that 6 o'clock, and it was very evident that he was not getting traded. People were elated about that, and I think rightfully so. Unfortunately, I don't know what this means for them making a deal. I think we could get back some nice pieces if we did deal them. I'd love to extend them, obviously, but who knows what ends up happening.
This should now be so simple, and it's not, because they probably will trade him this winter when every team could sit down and have calculated bids and offers on Stephen Kwan, but just extend the guy. You look at the Guardians, and they always bellyache that they're hard up for money. Well, you traded Andreas Jimenez, and you were able to get out of that big contract, and the guy that you got back for him is on the commissioner's exempt list, Luis Ortiz, because of the gambling scandal. Next year, the only position player that you owe any money to right now is Carlos Santana, and he's going to be gone as well. So you're quite literally only paying Jose Ramirez serious years. Just pay Stephen Kwan. He is the perfect leadoff hitter for this lineup every single night. We've seen how he's been able to evolve as a hitter, and he's showcased a little bit more power. I would love to get an extension done. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah. I was wondering, I don't know, maybe it's a silly question. It's for someone on the inside, but I was wondering with all the things that happened with Clase and Ortiz, if that played a role in not trading Kwan, because simply for the emotional implosion that would happen with our fan base.
Well, that's why you should extend them. I hate to tell people, and the allegations against both Clase and Ortiz are just that. They're just allegations right now, and innocent until proven guilty. But the San Diego Padres last year had a player who was banned for life for betting on the Padres to win while he was injured at home, completely away from the team. If what's being alleged is true and they were manipulating the outcome of certain at-bats with intentionally bad pitches, I mean, we've seen the last of Emmanuel Clase and Luis Ortiz in a Cleveland uniform, and that should give the organization all of the reason to extend Stephen Kwan. Give us something, since we lost two important pieces of our organization.
I'll add one thing to that. One thing that doesn't make sense to me here is it was involvement in a parlay. And anybody who knows parlays know that that's a small part of a bet where you've got to hit multiple legs. So I'm not sure how the economics work for Emmanuel Clase to be throwing pitches and throwing, individual appearances for a leg of a parlay. So I'd be interested to see if there's more to this story. To your point, innocent until proven guilty, and maybe there's more in context to what's going on here.
All right, gang, let's pivot to the Browns a bit here. Martin Emerson Jr. with that Achilles injury. You hated to see him go down like that. Season ending. Who needs to step up and fill in for him?
Well, you've got Cam Mitchell, of course, you're going to be looking at. And then you're going to also need Greg Newsome. You're going to need him to really be the star that we had drafted him with, the thinking that he would become when he came out of Northwestern. I think that this secondary has really got to rally around this injury, be able to pick each other up, because it could be a long season. If we're dancing a lot but not getting a lot done on the field and not breaking up a lot of passes, that's going to be a long, long season for us.
Well, Greg Newsome has kind of bellyached for years and years that he views himself as an outside boundary corner, and the Browns have been unwilling to give him those consistent snaps on the outside. Here's your opportunity in a contract year. Show us that you could be that outside corner opposite Denzel Ward, and Newsome's going to need to be a lockdown boundary corner with Denzel. This is an injury that hurts because Martin Emerson was the biggest corner on the roster, so you lose a lot of that length and athleticism that he was able to give them out there. And then the next man up, Cam Mitchell, is going to have to replace Greg in the slot. So a big Northwest, it's a big Big Ten secondary, isn't it? Between Denzel, Cam Mitchell, and Greg Newsome, all being Big Ten guys, and two Northwestern guys. It's a Big Ten defensive backfield.
All right, let's do our fill in the blank segment. This is brought to you by our friends at Pure AV. Football season is just around the corner, and Pure AV has everything you need to get your man cave ready with their high-performance audio and video displays. And if you're worried about keeping a clean interior, they offer hidden audio and video options that allow you to keep that elegant look without sacrificing your favorite technology. Pure AV can set you up with invisible architectural speakers that are hidden in your walls and ceilings, as well as disappearing TVs that vanish behind art or mirrors. The guys over at Pure AV are constantly repairing or finishing other AV companies' botched jobs, so why not call them in the first place to eliminate that hassle and headache? Visit pureavcorp.com to see everything they offer for your home. All right, the Browns' first preseason game is this Friday in Carolina. The only thing I want to see in this game is
The one thing I want to see is offensive competence. I really want to see, no matter who the quarterback is, I want to see a flow to the game. I want to see, especially for our young quarterbacks, see them take command of the huddle, how they get and break the huddle, how they get out to the line of scrimmage, and then how the offense flows from there. So I hope to see some competence there out of the young guys especially. I don't expect Nick to see much out of Flacco. Of course, Pickett being hurt right now. Hopefully we're going to see those young guys kind of dueling it out.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what happens with Kenny Pickett at practice this week. I think they would love to get him back into the team drills, and that would make him eligible to participate in this first preseason game. It's all eyes on the quarterback, right? Because they've got 4 of them, and how do you divvy up these snaps and these reps come preseason time? I feel like Joe Flacco won't need to play a whole lot because he's the vet that's been around the block and has done this thing before. You could really say the same about Kenny Pickett. So it's probably going to be a half of Dillon Gabriel, a half of Shedeur Sanders. And how do they both look? Because Dillon Gabriel has put together a couple of really brutal practices. And maybe he's just not a practice quarterback. I don't know. Maybe he could get out there on the field in Carolina and look a little bit better. I have my reservations on if the guy even belongs in the National Football League based off of what I've seen at practice. So I'm curious to see how this QB thing continues to unfold, because the season is just about a month away, and you got to start whittling down this competition somehow.
With that in consideration, blank is the rookie I'm most excited to see on Friday.
Well, it's going to be Shedeur for me, number one. Obviously, well talked about. It's in the national media right now. Everybody talking about Shedeur Sanders. It's going to be him versus Dillon Gabriel. We'll see how they really project when they actually get on the field in a professional game, even though it's going to be, a preseason game for the NFL. But the other guy is Harold Fannin. I'm really interested to see him, the local guy playing tight end. You talked about Njoku being your favorite player, Nick, on this team. Harold Fannin may be a guy who may become my favorite player of the future. I really like this guy. I love the tight end position. We know Stefanski likes to use the tight end position, so I'll be interested to see how he fits into this offense and how he develops.
I'm looking at Dillon Gabriel. I really am, because the Browns have put way more stock into Dillon Gabriel for whatever reason than they have Shedeur Sanders. This guy has gotten a king's ransom of the snaps. Without Kenny Pickett, he is the first guy up in the team period every single day at practice. So the Browns like Dillon Gabriel. The word's out. The results in practice haven't really matched that love.
Doesn't like Dillon
but we
Gabriel.
know that the Browns are all about their process. They value process over results. So the process is going to continue to unfold itself this Friday in Carolina, and I'm very anxious and excited to see how Dillon Gabriel looks in an actual live game setting.
Okay, blank will throw the first passing touchdown of the preseason.
Shedeur Sanders. He's going to do it, and it's going to light everything up for locally, for nationally. Shedeur, he is the guy. Everybody's going to be talking about it.
Social media is going to be on fire. If Shedeur Sanders outplays Dillon Gabriel, I expect that to happen. Shedeur Sanders just looks the part of an NFL quarterback. Dillon Gabriel does not. If that's true in practice, when the defensive backfield isn't in pads and they're in shorts, it's going to be true when they're in pads and they're in a competitive game. Things are going to get very fascinating if the 5th round pick outperforms the 3rd round pick here in the preseason. They're not going to continue to be able to hide behind this shield of, we're slow playing Shedeur Sanders with training wheels and kid gloves. It's going to be full systems go. The Shedeur crowd is going to get very loud.
Okay, the Haslams had that press conference where they addressed the Arch Manning rumors, the Shedeur pick, Kinshawn's contract, and the team's domestic violence problem, and all kinds of things. The Haslams press conference was.
First of all, I give the Haslams some credit for going out there, actually talking to the media. You don't hear from the Dolans a whole lot, so it's nice to hear when your owner's out there. At the same time, Nick, every time I hear the Haslams speak, it's like I'm being sold a used car. I feel like I'm across the desk from these folks right now, and I don't know how much of it I could believe. They said some nice things there, but at the end of the day, I always feel like I'm being worked on the other end of the table.
Yeah, well, that's because come time for the season, you usually end up getting worked. And that's the thing with this. Like, it was good. They said all the right things in the press conference. I found it fascinating fascinating that Jimmy went out there and said in plain English he expects Arch Manning to go 2 seasons with Texas. That's the thing to monitor this entire year, right? Is the quarterbacks in 2026. I don't think Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders are going to get a fair enough shake to prove to their organization that they're the guy, especially when the Browns have 2 first-round picks next year. Get your mock drafts ready. It's all eyes on Arch Manning. It's all eyes on Drew Aller, Lenore Sellers, and I'll be back in Indianapolis checking out all of these quarterbacks just like I was this past year.
A special thanks again to our friends at Pure AV. Be sure to check them out at pureavcorp.com. We're going to take a quick break and be back with Big Play Cleveland right after this. The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. It's time for our Garage Beer featured interview. Garage Beer is the perfect beer for any occasion. It's small batch, no frills, no bitterness. It's just beer that tastes like beer. The garage is always open with Garage Beer. And we've got our very special guest in studio, friend of show, very talented writer, Vince Guerreri. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thanks for having me.
And great to see you again.
I am delighted.
So we want to talk all about your book, From Setbacks to Success, the 1945 Cleveland Buckeyes. You put some masterpieces together. This is the latest?
Yes, I should clarify. It is not necessarily my book. It is an anthology assembled by the Society for American Baseball Research. I am one of the editors, based in no small part, I guess, on my expertise in the realm of Cleveland sports.
Yes. Okay, so you're kind of the brains coordinating all of this to put together.
That's very nice of you to say. We'll go with that.
You've got, what is the most compelling part of this book? Like, why should people pick this up?
Well, it's a very interesting story. First of all, there aren't a lot of people who know a lot about the Negro Leagues. And the people that do know about the Negro Leagues, you know, it tends to be, oh, they know about the Kansas City Monarchs because Jackie Robinson and Satchel Paige played for them. Oh, they know about the Homestead Grays because Josh Gibson played for them. You know, and you know, there were a lot of Negro League teams that don't get a whole lot of recognition, and the Buckeyes are one of them. They actually won the Negro World Series in 1945, which is also really interesting to me because it is an inflection point. They won the World Series in September of 1945, and the following month, the Dodgers announced that Jackie Robinson had been signed and would play minor league baseball in Montreal the following season. Obviously, he played in Montreal in 1946, and then he came to Brooklyn in 1947 and integrated the major leagues. So this was there's a sense that this was, you know, one of the last big moments before everything changed.
Which is cool because it's a little nugget that people probably don't know about, that special World Series even exists.
Yeah, that's, you know, it was kind of interesting. Major League Baseball was a fly-by-night operation for a lot longer than we remember. Negro League Baseball, even more so. I mean, there were in this season, obviously the Buckeyes played at League Park. They would play some night games at Cleveland Stadium, but they also played, you know, in Dayton. They played in Toledo. In fact, the reason they were the Buckeyes is because they thought they were going to be an Ohio team, and they would split their time between Cleveland and Cincinnati. And they really kind of found their niche in Cleveland. Any notable players on those teams? And that's one of the other things about this story is, no, there really aren't, comparatively speaking. The Buckeyes had a player by the name of Sam Jethro. Jethro was one of the players that went to an ill-fated tryout at Fenway Park at the beginning of 1945. He and Jackie Robinson were there, and there was this idea that they were going to integrate the major leagues. But as it turned out to be essentially window dressing, because a city councilman in Boston said, hey, if you're not going to try to commit to integrating baseball, you know, we're going to take away your right to play ball on Sunday. And that was a big deal for a lot of teams for a long time. That's one of the reasons the Cleveland Spiders actually left Cleveland, was because the blue laws prevented Sunday games. But Sam Jethro, I'm wearing my Cleveland Spiders shirt here today. You sure are. Sam Jethro was the Rookie of the Year for the Boston Braves in 1950, still the oldest player ever to win Rookie of the Year. Quincy Troop was the player manager for the Buckeyes, and he ended up playing in, I think, like 20 games in the major leagues, actually for the Indians. But other than that, it was a bunch of guys, you know? I mean, a bunch of people who played Negro League ball, played in the Mexican League, things like that. And then, you know, after integration, might have knocked around in minor league baseball, but never made the major leagues.
All of this rich history surrounding specifically the Negro League, why did you find it so important to bring such a spotlight? You know, more people need to know this history about America's pastime.
Well, it's, you know, it's like the line in James Earl Jones said in Field of Dreams, baseball represents everything that was good and can be good again. And I would go even farther to say baseball represents everything. Everything good about America, everything bad about America. And this is, you know, one of those elements that, you know, we shouldn't have had segregated baseball, but we did. And it was actually a very thriving industry within the black community. And it was, you know, one of those things that, again, people don't know a lot about just because a lot of attention was not paid to it. For research in this book, the plain dealer was of little help. The press was of little help. Honestly, you had to go to the Call and Post, which was the African-American, which still is the African-American newspaper in Cleveland. And, you know, they were the ones that had the archives where you could kind of track what was going on in the season.
You know, I know, Vince, you have a speaking engagement coming up September 6th at noon, League Park Baseball Heritage Museum. Talk a little bit about League Park. I feel like, Gab, to your point, that's another piece of Cleveland baseball history that a lot of people aren't familiar with, that we even have it. And it means a great deal to the sport of baseball.
Well, not just baseball. The speaking engagement is about 1945, about how the Buckeyes won the Negro World Series, and League Park was the home field that year for the Cleveland Rams in the NFL, who went on to win the NFL title and then left for Los Angeles like a month later. But yeah, League Park is a very, very important place. You know, the original stadium dates back to 1891 for the Spiders. They rebuilt it in 1910 for steel and concrete for a little more permanence. It was home to the Indians. It was home to the Buckeyes. It was home to the Cleveland Rams. And it was, you know, one of those places. Eventually, when Bill Veeck bought the Indians, he realized he was leaving money on the table by not playing at Cleveland Stadium. So the Indians moved to Cleveland Stadium full time. The Rams obviously left for Los Angeles, and the Browns made Cleveland Stadium their full-time home. And the Buckeyes ended up going the way of all flesh, like all the other Negro League teams. And so all of a sudden, you know, League Park was suitably emptied out. But it is a transcendent place. I love it. I love going there. I tell people I feel like George C. Scott at the Carthaginian battlefield in Patton every time I go there, because, you know, you can just like feel it, because the field is laid out the same way it was when the Indians played there. And, you know, you can look down the first base line and go, wow, 290 feet ain't that far. And, you know, then they've got like the 40-foot fence. And there are stories that Babe Ruth used to hit balls over the fence, over Lexington Avenue, over the houses on the other side of Lexington Avenue into the backyards. You know, you stand there where second base was, and that's where Wamby had his unassisted triple play in the World Series in 1920. You stand out in center field and you go, wow, Trish Speaker covered all of this, and it is a lot of green.
It's awesome, Vince. Thank you so much for coming in studio, too, because it's great to pick your brain about all the history. You're clearly a wealth of all the history, and that's illustrated in this book. Once again, this is called From Setbacks to Success, the 1945 Cleveland Buckeyes. And there's a lot of team effort that went into this book and plenty of history. So thank you for your diligence and attention on this awesome piece of history. We look forward, again, for Vince's speaking engagement, September 6th, 12 o'clock. It's going to be at League Park Baseball Heritage Museum. So thanks so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you. We'll take a quick break and be back with more Big Play Cleveland right after this. The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Pure AV, luxury home automation. Experience your dream smart home by visiting pureavcorp.com.
Bringing the heat on the Big Play Cleveland Show, presented by our friends at Northeast Factory Direct. Whether you're remodeling your kitchen, updating your furniture, freshening up that patio before the fall, or looking for a brand new mattress, Northeast Factory Direct is the place for you. There's no fancy showrooms, no high pressure salespeople, just great items at unbelievable prices. It gets even better for our listeners when you visit Northeast Factory Direct today in Cleveland, Euclid, Macedonia, North Canton, and you're getting ready to check out with all your new stuff. Ask for that extra special Big Play bonus. You're going to get an extra special hookup on top of the unbelievable prices over at Northeast Factory Direct. It's time to bring in Jensen Lewis for Bringing the Heat. Everybody around Cleveland a little bit brokenhearted to see one of our great legends, Shane Bieber, move on to the Toronto Blue Jays. Jensen, what are the Guardians getting back in Cal Steven, the young starting pitcher that they acquired from the Shane Bieber trade?
Yeah, you got to give something to get something, right? And the way that it looked at this offseason and the opportunity to have, Shane make the decision to want to come back here to Cleveland and rehab through a place that, he was grown and developed. I think that made a lot of sense just from the individual, let alone what the potential a return to form could look like. So, from that standpoint, it kind of stings because if you were in contention, you felt like this was a deadline deal to reinforce your starting rotation and, try and go for it here where we know that starting pitching is so expensive at the trade deadline. So a calculated risk for both sides, right? On the Toronto side, you're hoping that Shane Bieber continues what has been a very impressive rehab up into the big league club and be able to contribute meaningful innings down the stretch and what they hope is a ticket to the postseason and a long postseason run in Toronto. When you look at Steven coming back, a top 5 prospect, from the Blue Jays system, instantaneously going to be the top, if not the top pitching prospect for the Guardian system. It probably doesn't arrive until at the earliest sometime next year. If not then, maybe into 2027. So very par for the course here for this Cleveland front office to try and spin a risk into something that is not only going to have ROI for the future, but maybe the immediate future as well.
Old school thinking is you don't trade with division rivals. Do you have any problem with the Guardians dealing Paul Sewald to the Tigers up there in Detroit?
Not really, Chris. And to know that, again, it was a calculated risk in its own right to have Sewald here in this Cleveland bullpen for, what looked like just kind of a cup of coffee at certain stints. So, okay, he goes to Detroit. He's going to be a free agent, and at that point you try and get something back for a sellable asset. So no problem doing that. And again, par for the course for what this front office likes to do.
Jensen, maybe some frustration from the fans at how Stephen Vogt has balanced using Santana, Manzardo, and Fry at first base and DH. How does that look, especially when you add CJ Kayfus?
But Gavin, you nailed it, right? I mean, you've seen instance where Manzardo goes out and has an outstanding night or an outstanding day, and then all of a sudden he's on the bench to start the next day. I'll never get it. I'll never understand it. I don't care what the laptop gang has to say. When you've got a guy that's crushing it in front of your eyes, let him go out and play. So, support the player 100%. You ask him to put up numbers. You ask him to do big things with runners in scoring position. And, in instances where those guys have done that, been very perplexing. Totally agree that they find themselves riding the pine the very next day.
Jensen, do you think CJ Kayfus could be an actual answer for the Guardians out there in right field now that we're probably not going to see DeLauder for a little bit more time with yet another injury? I think fans are just craving that big-time bat, and can CJ Kayfus be that?
I totally agree, Nick, that, no better time than the present. Let him go out there. And again, this is what we've had discussions with on this segment for the last couple of months is you ask the players down in AAA to show you that they're ready and that they're capable of making an impact at the big league level. And a huge missed opportunity for Chase DeLauder. We know now that that's going to be done for the year. You look at, say, CJ Kayfus, and they were kind of in tandem guys there in Columbus really producing. So why not give the youngster an opportunity? You didn't go out and get any offensive firepower at the trade deadline. So perhaps that was the mentality all along, guys, was that they had the idea, Kayfus has earned this opportunity. Let's let him go out and play every single day.
Jensen, since his return to Cleveland, Brian Rocchio has been playing a lot better. He's batting near 284, 17 ribbies in 28 games. He was batting around 165 in the previous 32 games with the big club. What do you think? Is this a lot closer to what his potential is? Do you think this can continue? And do we expect this growth to see this throughout the rest of the season?
Boy, Chris, if it mirrors kind of what Nick and I talked a lot about last year during the end of the year and into our postseason shows on Big Play, this was the guy that you wanted up almost with the game on the line at some points. They remember it was a really strong finish through September and into October, and you hope the adjustments and the confidence, more importantly, has really rebounded. So the early returns are great, and you hope that he's able to continue those contributions, especially turning the lineup over for the top as well.
Jensen, obviously the last big piece from the MLB trade deadline is that Steven Kwan wasn't traded. There was speculation all throughout the day that he was going to be, and then there in the last 2 hours, you kind of got the sense that it wasn't going to happen when the Padres opted for Ramon Laureano. What went on there at the MLB trade deadline, and is there still any chance that the fans could hold on to that perhaps the Guards could extend Steven Kwan?
What an emotional day, right? And as soon as I saw the Bieber news, I thought, okay, well, if you trade Kwan, then it is completely waving the white flag. And so when you have, the reports now that have surfaced that their asking price was as high as it was and they didn't budge, credit goes to one side here. And certainly the front office wanted, if indeed they were going to move on from Steven Kwan, a king's ransom in return. That didn't happen. Okay, we stand pat, and we still are, a handful of games out of a playoff spot. They didn't really do anything externally to help them as far as the lineup goes. But as I said before, maybe that was the plan all along, was if we do not get the package haul, whether it be a combination of Major League and top prospect players in exchange for Steven Kwan, then we're fully accepting going into the rest of the season to roll the dice, see what we can do, and then have the opportunity, guys, we've seen this a lot in the past, where you can entertain all 29 other clubs rather than teams that are in it at the trade deadline to try and get into the postseason.
Alrighty, Jensen, it's time for our Northeast Factory Direct question of the week. What's the latest with Emmanuel Clase, Luis Ortiz? The investigation started over a month ago, and it feels like right now we're in a little bit of a holding, waiting pattern. Fans kind of feel in the dark on this.
Well, it certainly was not good news when we saw that their lockers were cleaned out, and you guys kind of can connect the dots there, right? The timeline for them to come back at the soonest was the end of August. Now it appears that they will not return whatsoever this year in any capacity. And I think the prevailing sentiment, guys, and we'll have to wait for the investigation to bear fruit and ultimately complete, is to when did they find out, when whatever was happening, and how many instances did it occur? Was it a one-time thing? Did it happen multiple times? Again, you got to let the investigation play out, but hey, the optics are horrible, right? You lose both those guys, not only just from a chance to come back and play, but completely removed from that locker room setup whatsoever.
And also the trade talks. You couldn't move Emmanuel Clase because of that suspension. How much did that set back the Guardians?
Not only that, but it completely altered, Chris, and it's a great point that you bring up. It altered the tectonic plates of where teams on the outside valued those back-end leverage relievers. It instantaneously upgraded the asking prices for Yohan Duran from Minnesota, a Ryan Helsley coming out of St. Louis. And I think you kind of saw that play out there. So, whether Cleveland was really leaning heavily towards trading Clase or not, it certainly changed not only the market value, but it also really hamstrung the Guardians from doing anything further.
No better Cleveland Guardians content than right here on Bringing the Heat with Jensen Lewis. Go follow VSiN by the Books co-host Jensen on social at JLou50. We'll do it again, Jensen, next week. Thanks a bunch.
You bet, guys. Thanks.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Fairway Ford, the largest inventory of new Ford trucks, the lowest pricing, and same hometown level of service. Visit fairwayfordohio.com today.
Welcome on back into the Big Play Cleveland Show. It is time for our weekly conversation with Ty Dillon. Ty races for your local Northeast Ohio zone Matt colleague, who fields 2 teams in the NASCAR Cup Series. Ty drives that number 10 Chevy every single week. Ty, thanks so much for joining us, fresh off the heels of a solid outing in Iowa.
Yeah, it was a kind of an up and down weekend. It didn't really end the way we wanted it to. We were really fast in practice. Qualifying, made a bit of a mistake on our lap, and start the race, we were kind of running up through the field, doing good things, and I think we were pacing ourselves to have a solid day, probably run inside the top 20, if not inside the top 15, which we'd have been really happy with leaving with there. And Todd Gilliland ended up crashing us, and at least he owned up to it after the race and came and apologized. But just one of those things, you race 38 times a year, sometimes you get got, and that was one of those times. He lost it underneath me and crashed our race car, but you can't focus on just that. You got to take some of the positives that we had from the weekend and go on to the next one.
Well, you were able to get out there for the MLB Speedway Classic. I know it's gotten a little bit of scrutiny online. What was that experience like hanging out at Bristol for a baseball game?
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool. I got the chance to fly over there from the racetrack Saturday night. Unfortunately, when we landed, it was just dumping rain, and it was a downpour. But there were so many fans there. It was easily, for real, 90,000 fans there, which was cool to see. Caught some of the Tim McGraw pre-concert. I think if they would have gotten it off without a hitch, without the rain, it would have been, a real hit. And the game looked cool on Sunday, the part that I got to watch. I feel like it was probably better off being a day game. But the amount of rain and just kind of the whole situation, I think, kind of knocked out a little of the steam on it. But it was cool to see one of our biggest arenas, a stadium that holds 140 plus thousand people, full of baseball fans. And that's the first time I've been there and seen that many fans. And it's not for us doing our job and racing. So it was kind of a unique perspective, but I hope they stick with it because I feel like they deserve to have a series, at least a 3-game series for the fans, and maybe rearrange some things. I think they could have learned from what they did. But it was cool to go see that. Unfortunately, I didn't even get to see an inning of baseball. We had to fly out because the rain delayed it into the next day. So.
And they definitely got a taste of NASCAR with all that rain. I know you like usually racing in the rain. You've told us before on the program, playing baseball in the rain, an entirely different story. Up next, you got Watkins Glen. It's another road course, and it's another course that you've raced at before, but it's been a minute. What's the mindset going into this weekend?
Yeah, I'm excited. We ran really good at Sonoma, our last road course race. I think if we can just continue the momentum of that, kind of build off that. Like you said, it's one of the road courses that I've ran, probably have more starts on than any other. So that's exciting for me. It's a little bit of familiarity. Yeah, it's been 2 years since I've been on the track, but not much has really changed. So you don't feel like you're starting so far behind compared to some of these other tracks. So I'm looking forward to it. We got to rebound. We had, rough luck the last 2 weeks, and we need to keep the car clean and get us a solid finish in Watkins Glen to finish out the year strong.
All right, Ty. Well, Friday is a big day, not because anything's going on in the world of racing, but it's because my Browns, Matt Colleague's Browns, playing your Carolina Panthers in the preseason opener. Feel like we got to think of some sort of bet to do for Browns Panthers preseason game 1.
For sure. I'm going to have to wear, loser has to wear the other team's gear next Monday. I think we might have to do something like that. But I'm feeling pretty confident about our Panthers. Our squad's looking pretty solid. We're having a positive, preseason so far. We discussed a little bit of the Browns, so we'll see how it happens. At least you guys have like 4 decent quarterbacks to play through the game. We have, I guess we have Andy Dalton, and Jake Plummer was pretty good last year too.
Yeah,
or Jack Plummer. Sorry,
Ty, you're gonna get an up close and personal look at this 4-man quarterback competition. The island of misfit toys is decimating down on Carolina this Friday with Kenny Pickett, if he can get his hamstring right, Joe Flacco, Shador Sanders, Dylan Gabriel. I imagine is gonna play a big chunk of this game. Oh, you're going to get very well acquainted with our 4 QBs we've got battling it out here, man.
I hope we just don't get any PTSD. Carolina's been on the quarterback carousel, and hopefully we're feeling like we maybe just stepped off of it. But hopefully you guys don't bring any of that bad mojo back into Carolina.
For sure. Keep it locked right here on the Big Play Cleveland Show for our conversations with Ty Dillon. Every single week, make sure to throw him some love on social media at Ty Dillon. Keep it locked with our friends at Colleague Racing, online as well at Colleague Racing. Ty, thanks so much. We'll do it again next week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
More Big Play Cleveland right after this.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Smart Choice Windows. Energy efficient products at an affordable price. Visit smartchoicewindows.com today.
Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland Show. This Smart Choice segment is brought to you by Smart Choice Windows. Smart Choice Windows is the place to go when you need to upgrade your home. And right now they're running some awesome promotions like buy 2 windows, get 2 free, $1,500 off whole home siding, or $500 off entry door installation. Plus, they offer great financing with no money down, no interest until 2027. So if you're ready for quieter, more energy efficient windows, give them a call at 844-GET-SMART or head over to smartchoicewindows.com to schedule your free, no-pressure estimate today. And be sure to ask about that Big Play bonus to get an additional 10% off all promotions. All right, I'm giving you a situation. You're going to tell me what the smart choice would be. Micah Parsons and Terry McLaurin have both requested trades recently. Some Cleveland fans want the Browns to trade for them, and the smart choice would be
to pick on the NFC East. Why not? Let's try to win some football games, trade for both of these guys. I think that's a little bit unlikely, just because it's going to cost a ton to get Michael Parsons. That's a top 3 defensive end in football behind Myles Garrett and TJ Watt. Terry McLaurin's a little bit more interesting, though, because that's a guy that's approaching 30 years old. The Washington Commanders have been hesitant to give him that new contract. You know, Andrew Berry has an affinity for the wide receiver trade, and the Browns don't mind throwing big money around. I wonder what it would cost to acquire Terry McLaurin via trade. A 2nd-round pick, a 3rd-round pick. At that price, it might be worth it because of how bad Andrew Berry has been at identifying and drafting wide receivers. I know Denzel Ward was campaigning to bring his old Buckeye teammate back home as well. Terry McLaurin in Cleveland could be fun, and he could help the Browns evaluate if any of these quarterbacks are worth a lick.
That's an interesting thought. My thought, though, is that he would also take up a spot where you could be playing one of the young guys. We're not a player away. We're not a Terry McLaurin away from the playoffs or the Super Bowl. We're not in that state. So when we get there, then we got to make that move. We got to put the money out there. We got to make the trade. Right now, we're all about developing young guys, seeing what we've got on the field right now. So I don't think you make either of these moves. And oh, by the way, I think both of those guys are staying with their respective clubs.
All right, this is a little painful to think about, but Nick Chubb could get more touches than expected in Houston this year with Joe Mixon dealing with that foot injury. If you had to predict how Nick Chubb's season will go...
Oh, come on. He left Cleveland, so it's going to be a Pro Bowl season for Nick Chubb is what I expect. I expect for him to rush for over 1,000 yards, be one of those comeback player of the year types. That's what I expect as a Cleveland fan who's been through this many, many times, Nick.
You know, I've talked to some of my friends who are in Houston and cover the Texans. Got a good relationship with some people out Sports Radio 610 in Houston because of our similarities with the Deshaun Watson stuff. They've said that Nick Chubb looks really bad. And I hope that's not the case. Too. I hope he's not washed. Like, for Nick as a person, I hope he could find success with the Texans. Like, the Browns aren't going anywhere this year, so I'm not some scorned ex that wants to see the Texans fail. Like, I want to see Nick Chubb do really well, and I hope that he's able to score a couple old man touchdowns in meaningful games for the Texans, and that this isn't a situation where they're looking at him as some second-class citizen that just doesn't belong because he's so beat up.
Right. Well, do you care how Nick Chubb plays this season in terms of, like, how invested are you going to be?
I'm rooting for him. Absolutely. You know, he gave us many good years here in Cleveland, was quite oftentimes the guy on offense really putting it on his back. So I want to see Nick Chubb do well with the Texans.
Cheers to you, Chubb. This segment was also brought to you by Smart Choice Baths. If your bathroom needs an update, the team at Smart Choice Baths has you covered. Whether you're looking to replace your shower or do a whole bathroom remodel, Smart Choice can offer you the quality and expertise you'll need to make that experience an enjoyable one. They offer custom designs tailored to your style and needs and have have safe and accessible solutions with their walk-in options and other safety features. No matter what you need, they have you covered, and right now they're offering $1,250 off all bathroom projects, plus a free luxury upgrade. So be sure to check them out at smartchoicebaths.com or give them a call at 844-GET-SMART to set up your free estimate today. And don't forget to mention the Big Play bonus to receive that additional 10% off all promotions. Thanks so much. We'll see you again next week.